I am recording. We are live. This is the first electric bike podcast. I'm Court. I do ElectricBikeReview.com. This is Chris Nolte out there at Propel Bikes in Brooklyn, New York. I've been visiting this guy a couple times recently for some reviews. This is Brett Thurber out at New Wheel in San Francisco. And before we completely jump into this, this is the forums, the EBR forums. You scroll down, there's this new section called Electric Bike Podcast, where I'm going to be doing just basically explaining, here's what happened in the podcast, embed it, and then post next week so that people can ask questions and we can try to answer them or just have topic ideas. So without further ado, how's it going, guys?
It's a little rainy over here in Brooklyn. I don't know, how's it going there in San Francisco, Brett?
Rainy.
Is it?
Everyone, so all last year in 2015, everyone was talking about El Nino on the West Coast. So it scared everyone away for the first 3 months of the season.
Huh.
And there was hardly any rain. And now they didn't talk about El Nino. El Nino is supposed to be over, and it's been raining nonstop since December. So kind of messed things up a little bit.
Yeah. Well, your shop's open right now, right, Brett? People could.
Yeah, it's 2:00, and it's the thing is, people are either it's raining and they don't want to come in, or they're afraid that it will be raining and they don't want to come in. So
that's the thing. In your city, people are walking. I guess in both, the East Coast, West Coast, are most of your customers walk-ins, you guys, or do they try to drive?
In Brooklyn, there's not too much driving going on, but there's still a decent bit. But I think a lot of people are taking public transportation or riding bikes.
How about you, Brett?
Yeah, it's a mix. I mean, in Marin, people drive, but there's people that bike by. We're on the bike path, so people, just on their sort of little leisurely ride, they come in.
That's right. I'm so used to your original shop, which is in San Francisco, and now you're up in Marin. So that's your second location.
Yep. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So we opened, middle of last year, and yeah, totally. It's kind of a different crowd up here. It's not. San Francisco is much more urban, and people, they'll bike to the shop and they'll walk to the shop and they'll bus to the shop. Out in Marin, it's a different story.
Are the customers similar, or is it completely different?
No, it's there's more our San Francisco customers are all utilitarian, very utilitarian.
Yeah.
And in Marin, it's a little bit more there's utilitarian, but there's more leisure. Just coming in for retirees, couples buying bikes. San Francisco, we have a lot of big parties of people that come in. So we'll have the friends bring friends in, and so we have 4 people in the shop looking at bikes. Whereas in San Francisco, it's all everyone for themselves a little bit more. So.
And Chris, you've had a similar, I guess, transition. You used to be in Long Island, now you're in Brooklyn. What's the change been like?
Yeah, I think we found kind of similar experience. From Long Island, it was a little bit more suburban. There was not as much, public transportation. People drove mostly, and people were buying electric bikes mostly for recreation, that sort of thing. And then coming to Brooklyn and being, like Brett, we're on a pretty busy bike lane here in Brooklyn, and I think, we generally find a lot of people are getting bikes to commute, and it's cool too. I think one of the really nice experiences is getting to see some of the people ride by on their daily commute, either, in the morning or the evening, and that sort of thing. It's just, It's kind of a funny experience that, we didn't have on Long Island.
I remember that because I was just there. There was a couple, or it was a family that came by on their cargo bike, just literally rode up hey, and you have an electric cargo bike. So it was I think they were scoping that out. I'm in Arizona. I'm visiting my grandfather, and I'm in the laundry room. So you might have noticed there's just some stuff. And it's been raining a lot here too. I guess just the rainy season. It's kind of mid-late January. And kind of getting excited because the season is probably just we're starting to see some of the new bikes for the year and that kind of thing. Real quick, I wanted to I shot something with my grandfather earlier just as a thanks. So I'm gonna cut to that real quick. Hey guys, so this is earlier in the day. This is my grandfather. I just wanted to introduce, because he turned 90.
Yeah.
Well, just wanted to say thanks and introduce you to the people and explain what all this is. This right here, must be left over from some Hawaiian party.
Yeah, from a wild party, yeah,
Yeah.
that's for sure.
It's crazy down here in Sun City. So
I'm really blessed to have such a talented grandson. And he's his father also. I hope the ratings on this one are good.
yeah.
Oh,
Wait, well, all we can do is hope, right?
I hope they don't tarnish your brilliant resume.
We've been trying to teach Papa how to ride a bike again for a while.
Yeah,
We've
well,
got that old picture of you, actually.
Yeah, that was when my dad sold 30 subscriptions to a county paper and won the bicycle.
Really?
In 1936.
He won that. Wow.
Yeah. And
1936.
I gave my bicycle away to the landscaper about 10 years ago because I didn't want to go
That was nice.
dry if you park in the special.
Do you ever see him riding like, hey?
No. Okay.
Okay.
Take
Yeah.
care.
Thanks, Pop.
Thank you.
We'll catch you later.
And hello wherever you are.
Yeah.
Or goodbye wherever you are.
That's right. Okay, so that's kind of cool. I'll get to talk to my grandfather a little bit. The main topic for this week was going to be 2016. Like, what did we see in the industry, and maybe as shops? You guys run the shops, and then eventually we'll come back and talk a little bit about 2017, what you're excited about. So maybe I'll kick it to you, Chris. You had the move. You're now in Brooklyn, and I noticed that you transitioned to more like Bosch bikes, so some of the mid-drives and a little bit fancier. What do you think about just 2016? What are the trends and things?
Yeah, 2016 has been a good year for us. I mean, it's our first year it's our first full season in our new shop, which has been good. I think that we're starting to really understand the New York City market specifically, and focusing on more urban transportation and that sort of stuff, and that's been really great. As you said, yeah, we're certainly doing a lot more with Bosch. It's just simply to the fact that they've just been very reliable to work with. We've sold quite a few of their bikes and had very little issues with them. And, from a shop side, it makes a lot of sense. And also, when you're selling a bike to somebody that they're using for transportation, you want to know that they're going to be able to depend on it day in, day out. And if there is an issue, you can get them back on the road quickly. And that's been our experience. So, it's great to see more brands kind of coming to the States with their system, and looking forward to a lot of the gaps being filled in by different products. Just like cargo bikes and folding bikes and things that serve specific needs. I think that's something that historically hasn't really happened, and or also just having like different sizes and configurations available, different drive trains and belt drives or whatever the case may be. So that's some of the stuff that we're particularly excited about, and it's really cool to see. But at the same time, with all the excitement and the growth of the industry, I think that there's a lot of companies that are kind of jumping in the market that might be a little bit more like fly-by-night companies. And
well, let me interrupt you. Did any businesses that you guys know of go out of business in 2016? Did we lose any companies?
One is Polaris. They had made some e-bikes. I don't think that they were, I don't know how long they were on the market exactly, but I believe that 2016 might have been like the year where they finally shut down. Over the years we've seen several companies kind of shut down. But
thank you for calling that out. Like, this isn't a hate session or anything, but like, Polaris as a company, I think they're still around. But I did review a bunch of their bikes, and I think they were working with a company called eVantage a while back. And I haven't seen them. I even when they were being sold, I never saw a whole lot of them, and it was a unique system. So maybe they're rethinking things or something like that. How about you, Brett? Have you seen any companies step away? Or
what's interesting about Polaris is the actual Polaris people came to our shop to they're looking into e-bikes, and it turns out that Polaris, the e-bike brand, was just a licensing of the Polaris name.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and Polaris, the company, which is they're a big company. I mean, they have a lot of resources.
Yeah.
Like
snowmobiles.
we told them, like, you got to watch out. You don't, like, you license your name to someone and they make a product that isn't maybe as good as you would want it to be, and now your name is synonymous with like okay e-bikes.
Yeah, that's
you can
very
realize
true.
it. So anyway, that was interesting. So it wasn't actually like Polaris, the big brand, making this e-bike. It was like an Asian company that had licensed Polaris's name to sell them in the U.S. So
Wow. Well, thanks for the clarification.
Really on that.
Yeah.
Brett, since we're on you, do you want to hit up 2016, what you saw, or just, the recap on the year?
Yeah. Well, it was an interesting year for us. I mean, we were kind of, 2015 was really a big year for us because we launched like ST2 launch and Extra Style Edge Runner launch. So it was just like it was pretty gangbusters. And then we kind of knew 2016 was going to be a little bit more tough because, like what I said earlier, El Nino and our product line, there wasn't anything really brand like new, except for the ST2S, on like big new news. But that was just kind of just a Uber version of the ST2. So we were kind of expecting it to be a little bit more. And we opened the second shop in 2016. So our San Francisco like sales actually were lower than in 2015. So and for a number of reasons, and then we opened the Marin store, which was a big deal. But so it was kind of like, I guess 2016 was a year of us trying to get our systems together, like get reorganized and reoriented. And so looking forward, I mean, we're pretty excited about 2017 because the model line is really good. Like what Chris was saying, like there's like all the niches are being, like in our model line, like so many niches that we're missing are now being filled, and they're not just being filled just for the sake of it. They're being filled by like good brands that have a good business model that is like long-term and, and strategic and partners. And I mean, they're just much more solid business models. So we're, like Chris, like I think it's going to be a good year. And I think the product line is going to be really appealing. So we're excited.
Okay. That's awesome. Yeah. I feel overwhelmed because there are so many awesome bikes coming out. I think Chris, earlier we were talking, before we started filming, Chris was like, we've got Reese and Miller. I think that's a brand that both of your shops are going to carry, New Wheel and Propel. And they've got like the double battery configuration. And so you get the super range. It's also full suspension. And it's just like crazy stuff and 2017, we see the 500 watt hour battery pack from Bosch. Continue to see great stuff from Bros on some of the different bikes. Really tightly integrated bikes that don't look electric. And for me, that was a huge thing in 2016. Like the Specialized Turbo was the bike where it was like, whoa, it blends in and it's from a legit company. And now we're starting to see European companies bringing in more legitimate, just, purpose-built, high-quality e-bikes. I wanted to also something from 2016. I'm going to head over to Electric Bike Review and go to Sondors, right? These are the guys that did their crowdfunding thing a while back. I was trying to remember what year that was. It looks like 2015. I mean, it hasn't been that long since their very first bike, and there was all this skepticism. Will it even be delivered? It got delivered, and it was okay. You pay extra for shipping, and you have to kind of build it and true it yourself. But since then, since they did their crowdfunding bike, I just seen a ton of bikes like happening in 2016 on Indiegogo, on Kickstarter, and we're just getting more and more. And I think some of them are pretty legitimate. And one legitimate company that I think did start on Kickstarter was Faraday, and they were acquired by or merged with the Pon Group recently. And so it's interesting to see something that starts small can become something bigger. And at the same time, some of these brands where it's like, well, they did one bike and haven't really heard from them anymore. What did you guys have any highlights from the crowdfunding space this past year, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I think regarding the crowdfunding space, it's really a tricky thing because I think a lot of people don't realize when they get into the e-bike business to manufacture a bike, like what the real costs of doing business are. You know, when you say you have a 1-year warranty or whatever the case may be,
Or no
like, what's
warranty,
it actually going to take to support that?
None. Yeah.
Well, yeah, or you have to purchase the warranty. Like some people, you know, say it doesn't come with the warranty, but you have to pay for a warranty.
Yeah.
But you know, there's a lot of costs in you know, having a business like that, and you know, I think if you want to have a sustainable business, you really have to think things through and recognize, you know, at what point is this going to be obsolete? You know, how long do I reasonably have to support this product?
Yeah.
And you know, that's really an interesting thing. Like when we talk to some of the larger manufacturers, a lot of them coming from the auto industry, you know, you're talking 7-10 years just in the minimum of what they have to support. And, you know, but many of them, you could be optimistic that you're going to see 20 plus years of support. And especially as it's, you know, kind of a larger company in that space. So, you know, I think that there's a lot of little things. I mean, it could be as simple as a crank arm, you know, and you know, the pedal wasn't threaded in correctly, and then, you know, the customer needs a new crank arm, and that manufacturer doesn't have it, and, you know, they don't know what to do.
Well, let me just say, I got one of these like ship e-bikes recently, and I put the wrong pedal on the wrong side, and I was like forcing it. And so usually the pedal has a left and a right, and that's something you don't have to worry about when you're buying from a store. You have experts. I mean, I'm sort of knowledgeable. I do this all the time, but I mean, I make mistakes. And then, yeah, you can't even get a hold of some of these companies. No one is there. Yeah. Whereas in Europe, it's like you have to have a 2-year warranty, I think, on your bikes. Yes. There's different standards. Brett, I know you have strong feelings about this. We've talked about it before. Do you want to talk about, I mean, first of all, you have to tell me if you had a favorite crowdfunded bike for 2016. Then you can tell me what you think about it. Come on. Yeah, there have been a bunch.
What do you talk to?
Well, there's one that you're carrying though, Brett, that both of us are carrying actually, which is kind of a whole nother topic. Well, there's Faraday, and then Tern actually did crowdfunding on their folding bike,
real,
which is kind of a little bit of a weird thing, but you know, so and it also kind of speaks to like what's the value of crowdfunding and why do the companies actually do it? Is it just a marketing thing or whatever?
Well, it's funny because on the Tern topic, we actually went and talked to Tern, and we told them don't do it. Like, don't do this crowdfunding thing, because it's just like, you know, you set expectations, and they're not really like, there's different ways to go about the crowdfunding. One is you need capital. You just need the capital, and if you're trying to build an e-bike company and you just need capital, and that's why you're on crowdfunding, like, it's, in my opinion, you're kind of asking, it's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
Because it takes a lot of capital to, like, unless you're going, there's 2 ways to do it. You go to China and you just say, I want, you know, 200 of this bike that's already produced. And China, you know, puts a container together for you. That is still capital intensive, but it's not that capital intensive.
Yeah.
The other way you do it is you do it like Faraday did it, and, you know, you have all this new technology, and you kind of use the crowdfunding to do marketing. But even with Faraday, like, they ran into a lot of problems, and it actually, you know, in my opinion, it kind of set them up for a lot of issues down the road, because their business model is built on in this one way. But when it turns into actually needing to be sustainable and going forward and having dealers and having support, you need to shift, you know, directions pretty dramatically, and sometimes the business model doesn't hold up. And I think that's, and you know, Faraday's, we've been watching it, and they've had to make a number of changes. I think all in all now, like, they're in a really good position, but it took, you know, there was a lot of pain involved, and we had kind of a front row seat in that. But you know, that's a happy story. But then there's other situations, like, you know, like the Wave crowd. It's just you know, any bike shop owner looking at that bike, even on the website, you can just see, like, this looks like a disaster. Like, you know, the rear rack wasn't even straight. It's like,
that was part of the Wave, Brett. That was part of the, well, it's a 28 mile per hour electric bike that it's like
Cruiser.
The most basic components, and I was like, someone's gonna die on this thing. I hope it's okay, you know. And they raised.
This is actually an interesting topic that you brought up, about safety and that sort of thing. This is something that Brett and I actually had a discussion last time that I was in California. We were talking about just kind of minimum safety requirements on bikes, because a lot of these things are built with just no concerns, and it's the same sort of thing like when you see somebody take like a Walmart bike and they put a 3,000 watt motor on it, and it's just like, really, and then people try to sell them to unsuspecting customers that say, oh, this is great, this is really fun, but they don't really recognize that this bike was in no way made to handle this sort of
stress.
It's
they
fun
have
until it's
maximum
not
weight
fun.
limits. Go ahead, Brett. Sorry.
It's fun until it's not fun anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
there's a
this on my forums. People are coming and it's like, that bike sucks. It's only going 20 miles per hour and it only has a 351. I'm like, dude, like, you don't need, like, that's overkill, and you build it yourself, and the wheel's out of true. And I have fallen. I have, like, some serious scars from, I mean, I'm sure you guys have fallen too, right? Raise your hand if you've ever crashed on an e-bike. Have you? Yes. Brett? No? Oh my gosh, then you're not riding enough. Dude, I hit a parked car once on my e-bike. That sucked.
But it wasn't, I didn't crash because of the e-bike aspect of it. I just want to make that clear.
I get it. Yes, I'm with you on that. That's so.
Yeah, most of my bike crashes were on BMX bikes when I was younger. Got lots of stitches to prove it.
You learn how to control it. I mean, you ride a bike, and I think that when you aren't having to worry about starting the bike as much, maybe getting up the hill, shifting gears, e-bikes can actually make it a little bit safer and allow you to focus on the road, and a lot of them with the lights and stuff. So this is more just a comment on, when you start the DIY stuff, there's a reason that, like, Bosch, the automotive company, or Yamaha, they're in the space trying to do something that's going to hold up a little bit better. It's got an actual manual there's a warranty and all that stuff. So I don't want to be hateful, because I think that the space evolved in America out of DIY kits, but we're at a point now where it's like, if you're going to do a crowdfunding campaign, do it right. Like Faraday did a really good job, and Adam is an amazing engineer, and he got some funding, and it's like, that's awesome. And to the other ones, I guess I would just say, be safe. If you buy a bike from something like that, be safe. And a lot of times people tell me, like, oh, I'm bummed out. I spent what I thought was a little bit of money, $1,000. I bought this bike, crowdfunding. It arrived like 3 months later. I put it together okay. And now I realize I really like electric bikes. I could have just saved up another $500, $1,000 in that time and bought an awesome bike from a dealer who will give me service, who will set it up right. And there's kind of like, no one wants to feel bad about their choices. And I'm a fan of crowdfunding in general, but it's just like, think about it. Think about it, guys.
Well, I will say, I think there is a gateway aspect to crowdfunding, especially like Sondors. Like we've had a lot of customers, it's like investing $2,500, $3,000 straight up it can feel like a lot, especially if you're not 100% sure you're going to use it. And what we say is, like, if the value's there, then it's worth the price. But if you don't know if the value's there, then you don't know, and you need to test it out. So, the Sondors has been kind of like, put your toe in the water sort of situation. And we've had a number of customers actually, like, upgrade. Like, we had a guy came in with his Sondors for service, worked on his Sondors, got it back rolling again. And he came back like a month later and bought an ST2. So it's like, it wasn't like,
that's a huge jump.
He wasn't, I mean, it's like he realized, like, e-bikes are really cool. They'll do what I need them to do. Maybe not, but the Sondors just wasn't what he needed as a vehicle. And so he doesn't drive, he just rides his bike around. And so it's, there's definitely a place for it. The thing I don't like to see is, like, I hate, like, I'm in the business from a sustainability aspect.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't want to see things just, end up in the landfill.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And so I think we need to be, it doesn't mean you have to buy an expensive new e-bike. I do think, there is a pitch for used e-bikes here, because you buy a used e-bike, and it might not be, all shiny, but at least it's like it's a good quality one, and then you're getting it for a good price. I'm a big believer in that.
Brett, I recently did an article following along those lines, and it was, let's see, something about batteries. Here it is: how to replace an electric bike battery. There's a company out there in Nevada, and you can send them your battery, and they'll like repack it. Because there are companies that go out of business, and I've seen that with some of the older bikes. There's this e-moto bike I saw at Sam's Place, Electric Bicycle Center in Fullerton, and yeah, renewable power energy. I haven't done that, and in some ways, it seems like it costs about as much as buying a nice Bosch battery pack, which is like legit, and so it was kind of like, well, didn't seem like a great value. But on the other hand, if you've got a bike you love, it's already set up, and you can repack the battery, get you back on the road, that is sustainable. And I agree with you. I want to see these things stick around, or have some sort of recycling program or something. And I haven't seen a clear like path to that, but I don't know. Have you guys heard anything about that, recycling or?
Well, Bosch, I mean, that's the one thing about, a lot of people say, oh, the price of these batteries, Yamaha battery or Bosch battery, it's expensive. But then you realize, if you look on the bottom, they basically have already prepaid for the recycling of the battery.
That's
so
cool.
Part of the cost, the reason it's a little bit more expensive, is they built in that price for recycling.
Which, you just take it to the shop, or what do you do, Brett?
You call there's a phone number on the bottom, on the back of the battery.
Sweet.
That you call.
See, I learned so much from you guys. That's awesome. Thank you.
So that's one way to do it. I mean, in some places like San Francisco, like it's pretty good about recycling. Like you can go bring your old lithium-ion batteries, and there's like that lithium is totally, it's technically non-toxic, and it can be recycled, and it is valuable. So
just take it to Best Buy and shove it in that like container thing. Do you think that would work?
I don't know about that.
Printer cartridge recycling thing. Well, and the other topic here, coming back, okay, this is like, as you were talking about customers coming in, one of them buys a Sondors, they spend $1,000. They're like, Ray, cool. And now I'm going to go to, like $6,000 for an ST2 or something. Financing. I've seen this more and more. Do you guys offer financing, or that could allow people to get into it, or rent to own, or like, what are the other possibilities here for people that you're seeing?
I'll give that to Brett, because I think he's really the expert on this topic. They do pretty well with the financing stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. We do a lot of financing, and we have a used bike page too.
Really? On your site?
Yeah.
I'm going there right now. Tell me how to get there.
So you go to newwheel.net.
Yep.
And then you go to, if you scroll down, you can see used bikes.
Got it. Pre-owned e-bikes. Okay. Hey, this is, how long have you done this, Brett?
Like about a year and a half, 2 years.
What do you think?
It's great. I mean, so here's the way that we have it set up right now is we don't make any money on this. It's a free forum. You can submit a posting, and then we'll post it up on the website, and customers are having tons of success selling bikes. So it's been the way we've, because we got a lot of requests. People want to upgrade, or they're moving, or whatever, life changes.
Yeah, I see a Faraday Cortland on here.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's cool. I think what we're going to be what we got really excited about going forward is there's a new trade-in. There's this bicyclebluebook.com.
Yeah.
And this new trade-in program where basically people can come in with regular bikes, and they're working on the electric bike side, and we can give them an instant quote for what their bike is worth, and then basically they get store credit right away, and then we send the bike to Bicycle Blue Book, and they sell it, and they send us a check, so everyone's happy.
Wow.
So that's going to be going into next year. We're gonna have the used bike listing page as well, because if you won't get as good a price for your e-bike through Bicycle Blue Book, because they take a cut. But if you just want instant gratification, you want to just instantly upgrade.
Yeah, it's convenience. Yeah, you don't have to meet in a dark alley. Brett, we were just at the IBD Summit, Independent Bicycle Dealer Summit in Arizona. That was awesome. And they talked about this. I think Bicycle Blue Book was there. Do you get any ideas from that, like what you're going to change?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, so as the head of business development for Bicycle Blue Book, we used to work with him. He used to be the head of BMC and Stromer.
Cool.
And then before that, he was with Focus USA.
Cool.
And we worked with both of those companies. So we have like a rapport with him. And anyway, we talked at them, and it just makes total sense. I mean, not just because we know him, but it just like, we're not set up to be in the used bike business. Yeah. There's other people that can do that better.
Who do that?
And so
where do the bikes go when you send them to Bicycle Blue Book?
The Bicycle Blue Book, they're going to be building out warehouses around the country, but they have a warehouse down in San Jose right now.
Cool.
And they basically, we pay to ship the bike to them. They have to stick it in storage for 30 days to meet the California requirements around bike theft. Yeah. And they also do a check on the VIN or serial number to make sure it's not stolen. Okay. And then after 30 days, they list them on eBay. They'll list them on Craigslist. I mean, they have their own marketplace. Yeah. So it's, it might eat into some of our new bike sales, but I think all in all, if you're in the market for a new bike, you're going to get a new bike. If you don't have the budget for a new bike, you can do much better getting a good quality used bike than buying like a lower quality new bike.
I agree. That it's neat to hear your actual experience with this. I suppose shipping non-electric bikes is a little bit easier too, because you don't have the battery thing. Are you got both of your shops, Chris? I think you were set up to actually ship lithium batteries, and you do online retailing a little bit, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's pretty important to make sure you know how to handle the batteries properly, and they can't go in an airplane and whatever else, and just being mindful of that stuff. So, but yeah, just one other thing on the used bike thing also, that in some place, I don't know about San Francisco, but in New York you actually need a special license to sell used bikes. It's kind of a whole different thing. It's a different regulation and everything like that to sell used bikes as opposed to new bikes. So
is that because you got to fix it up, or make sure it's like rideable, or it's just, I mean, New York has the bike laws and everything.
Yeah, I have to wonder if it might relate to some of the things that Brett was talking about, with theft and that sort of thing. They really probably want to try to keep an eye on businesses, make sure that they're on the up and up, because unfortunately bike theft is a thing, and they don't want businesses kind of selling stolen bikes. Unfortunately, that is something that can exist, and I'm sure it does exist. So
yeah, that's why we don't. So like our used bike listing page is basically customers. It's private seller to private seller, and we don't take a cut. And then the Bicycle Blue Book, and that's their appeal. Like even for you, Chris, like you can just stick it on your website, and they take all the risk and the liability, and they just make it easy to. I mean, so for them, it's a great business model. I think they're gonna do really well.
Sounds excellent. I mean, and so are they doing electric bikes as well?
They're starting to. They have. If you go on their website now, you can see trade-in values for Stromer and for. Wow. But they don't have all. Excellent. It's not all built out yet, so like there's still other brands that aren't up there.
This was something that I think you and I had spoken about a couple years ago when we were in Germany at the Kalkoff thing. About it was more so about doing some like independent testing, but I think the idea of like having like a proper battery tester with load testing and everything else could be really helpful for that, just to evaluate them. I mean, who knows, like maybe we could be agents for Bicycle Blue Book to, just properly evaluate the e-bikes to understand like where they at, where they are, how many charge cycles they've had. I mean, and that's the great thing about, a Bosch system, that you have all that information at your fingertips. You can see if the bike was being abused. You can see, what temperatures it was being ridden at, or, all these different things. And I think that sort of information can be very valuable in the used bike market, but then also considering, different things like leasing and whatever else, which I think that ultimately will be kind of the next frontier for electric bikes, just as it's become a very big thing in the car market.
It's interesting. Yeah. From a review standpoint, I occasionally review bikes that aren't even for sale anymore, just because I think it's cool and I come across it. But I often feel like there's so much work and energy that goes into it, and then it's this like shrine, when you can't get any more information. It's not on the dealer website. It's you find it and it's like, what is this? And my hope is to help people in that situation if they are looking at a used bike, or maybe they can read some comments and be like, oh, this bike really sucked even when it was new, or no, this bike is great. I love the way that the rack tilts on the back. It's perfect. So again, no hate. We're just teasing here. But I guess this might be a good show. We've been talking for a while. We're going to try to do these weekly. Maybe we transition to news, because one of the things we wanted to cover, in addition to just like interesting topics, is what happened this past week or recently. Our scope is a little bigger this week because it's the first one. I saw a really hilarious video at the bicycle retailer website, and I just wanted to play a moment of that. There are 2 of these on YouTube that someone copied it and just put it on their account because it was getting a lot of views, but I think this is the original. These guys in Europe somewhere, they got their fat bike stuck on, it's a barbed wire and electric fence. Look at this. They can't get it off. They spend, this video is like several minutes. Look, he's twitching. It's just hilarious. And to me, it illustrates the joy of bicycling with friends. Getting out there. And again, technically, it's not an electric bike, but it is electrified. I definitely recommend watching this if you guys have a chance. The other thing about these videos, I'm going to put notes and links to stuff in the descriptions, and I'm also going to try to create like a syndication or something for iTunes so you can actually listen to this. We're trying to over communicate because not everyone will have the video in front of them, and you just kind of catch up on your e-bike stuff on the go. So with that said, Chris, do you want to talk about a little bit about any news or stuff you've seen on Electric Bike Report or Electric Bike Action Magazine, any of these great quality sources that we all love?
Yeah, I think definitely the Faraday being acquired by Pon was a pretty big deal, specifically in the electric bike industry. Other news, it's tough to say. We were in the news a couple times, which is definitely exciting. It's been good to get some positive press for electric bikes, which historically in New York has not always been the case. Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of people are interested in this segment. Whether they're interested in riding electric bikes or not. It's definitely a growing segment, and the overall electric vehicles, and if you think about it, just the size of that space, and it's pretty interesting. So I don't know how too much more side of the Faraday thing, but how about you, Brett?
Yeah, actually, there's the other big news I read about is Nifa is basically bankrupt.
What is Nifa? I don't know what Nifa is.
Nifa is the producer. They're a German manufacturer of. They have Grace.
Oh,
is one of their brands.
Yeah, I hadn't seen them for a while.
And Steppenwolf.
Okay.
But it's been for us, it's been an interesting situation because we were actually very involved with Grace at one point. We were looking at actually importing Grace into the U.S.
Yeah. It's cool looking bikes.
And I went and visited their factory, and things were not right. I noticed at the factory, and that was 4 years ago or 3 years ago. So it's been, and the sales rep was kind of strange. It was all sorts of weird stuff.
I'll have to beat that out. Weird stuff happening over there, huh?
Weird stuff happening, and so anyway, I just read, and it had they had all sorts of trouble because they were one of the biggest bicycle manufacturers in Europe, and they were producing for the supermarkets, really cheap electric bike or really cheap bicycles and electric bikes. And then they tried to sort of transition their business model out of that and into higher quality brands. Yeah. And they had a lot of trouble with that transition. And then they had one bankruptcy, and the factory was bought by a German industrial family. And then just recently they just ran out of money again. So that's on the European side, it's kind of big news.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and this happened. Yeah, because this had happened a year or so ago. They had been in bankruptcy and they were bought out by somebody else or whatever the case may be. But I think there was some shady stuff going on with money, and then so it's interesting that that's happening again. Yeah,
there's a lot of scandalous stuff, I think, and it's not all what actually happened. But like the owner was just disappeared.
Yeah,
and they said he had a nervous breakdown of Nifa,
Nifa.
the original.
Yeah.
Who was running everything.
You brought up an interesting thing about this idea of like them, they were selling like these very inexpensive bikes and then they're trying to sell high-end bikes. And somebody I know in the bike industry, Ben Serrata, actually, he's like made like high-end racing bikes and that sort of stuff. And what he had said to me, he's like, you really can't do both. You can't go to the guy that, does these like really low quality stuff and like have them make high end stuff. Like they need to pick their focus, because if you look at, the facilities that these people, these companies use, it's a whole nother animal when they're doing high end stuff or doing low end stuff. And, that's a big deal. Or like, actually, Brett and I were at this presentation from Gazelle, and they were showing like their factory and how pristine it is and how like everything is kind of to the T. And, I think that's a big deal. And, I think that you don't always see it, like when you look at a bike from a faraway distance, but when you start looking into the details, you can start seeing the difference there. And that's a big deal. So.
Yeah, actually just reviewed the Gazelle Citizen C8 that we shot together, Chris, and it was a polished bike. Just even the down tube, the battery fit. Of course, they're using Bosch, and again, you're paying a little bit more for some of these, but it's
just wait till you didn't see the new one though, the new Arroyo, which is going to be very exciting. Among many of the other bikes that the whole Pon group is releasing, so there's definitely some interesting stuff in the pipeline there, and I think that some of these stronger European brands really get it. They've been doing it for a while, and it's very exciting that they're starting to put some resources behind building the U.S. market.
Yeah, on the Pon question too. That's an the Faraday Pon's news is big news, because one thing that's interesting. So Pon, we kept on seeing like executives from Pon coming through San Francisco, and we're like, they just want to come and visit us.
Yeah, and
they're all through like November, December. And we're like, what's going on here? And Karin, my partner, actually said like, I wonder if they're talking to Faraday. Like,
yeah.
Wow. She's smart.
Kind of smelled it.
Yeah.
And sure enough, we just learned that news, which is, I think, it's a good thing for Faraday. They're gonna like Pon of all the in my experience, like they are one of the most professional organizations in the bicycle industry, and they really kind of have a really good sense for where this is going and how they want to be in the market and all that. So I think it's really cool.
Yeah. Good for them. I called Adam this week, or I was reaching out like, hey, we're gonna do a podcast, and I think he's actually talking to Pon today. Like they're working on the details and stuff. So maybe. Well, no,
actually, the CEO and him are visiting the San Francisco, are visiting Karin right now.
Really? They're in your store again?
In San Francisco.
Dude, put them on. Like we should loop her in. We tried to get Karin earlier.
I tried to get her. I think she's occupied.
Well, whatever. I got to meet Adam way back in it was several years ago when he was doing the first Faraday. I hope we can get him on. I think he'll get on at some point, and we can talk a little bit about the company, get other guest speakers. One of the things we talked about preparing this podcast was like, these guys are kind of industry insiders. They get to go to special events, and they hear about stuff before the public, and it's easy to get excited about. Like, wow, there's this new bike, but it takes a long time to get it in stock, and you see this natural progression of like last year's bikes get a little cheaper and stuff. So Some of the bikes I'm still working on, recently they were shot at your place in Brooklyn, Chris, and I'm still really impressed. Just the quality level, like we were saying at the start of this, really stepped up in 2016. Yeah, we're seeing some bigger battery packs in 2017 and some more niches field, but I feel like e-bikes like arrived this year. Like it was like, yep, this works and it will work and you can rely on it. And that's exciting for me as an ambassador for the space. So
yeah, just wait until next year.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Or this year, 2017.
we made it.
2017. We're here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I think that might be it. I'm going to Electric Bike Report real quick just to skim down, see if anything else jumps out. I check this site out regularly. Pete's on.
There's one thing I would say, like the Brompton factory. That's some news.
Oh yeah, what's happened?
Yeah, they just moved into their own new factory, and they did like the Prince of, the Prince Henry or who was there?
Are we allowed to talk about Brompton? I mean, so good for them.
Royalty of England basically opened the factory, and then they're very much like, one of the reasons they opened this factory is in anticipation of their electric bike, which is looking to be coming out in 2018. So
wait, see, is that public? Can you say that, Brett? Like,
yeah, oh yeah,
yeah.
They talk
there's
about
press releases about it. So.
I'm too busy reviewing. I guess I'm not up to speed with my press. I just want to be as like professional as possible, and not. I mean, if we need to break news someday, do some leaks, that's great. But I want to make sure everyone's in the clear.
I mean, we don't know what it looks like or anything, and we don't know, we don't know much about it. But he did, like, it's public information to some extent, and they're going to be starting to roll it out in Europe in the end of 2017.
Okay.
Although there was a little presentation that happened at Google that I guess was not supposed to be public, but ended up being public.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's kind of just in the spirit of e-bike leaks. We'll
we'll save that for next week, right? Let a week go by, see what happens, leak a little bit more. So you guys, it's a pleasure having you on. Tons of fun. I respect both of your shops and your people immensely. Say hey to Karin. Maybe we'll get her on this next week. Are there any closing thoughts here, or are we good?
I guess just maybe just the idea of like what sort of things like are we looking to talk about in the future, and like what sort of participation and and just the idea of kind of connecting with others and
okay, Chris, that's a good point. I led into this talking about the forums. You go to ElectricBikeReview.com. There's the forum. You scroll down. I've got some sort of error happening, but the life of a website manager here. There's a section for these podcasts, and what we're really hoping is that, my job's like I go out, I look at the bikes, I review it. At some point, people, it's like I get it, I kind of know what an e-bike is, but there's all these other neat topics to discuss. You guys are the front lines, and people in the forums, many of them have bought bikes. Some of them are curious, like, how do I maintain it? Or, I heard there's this new battery. Is it forward compatible? Just whatever. Questions like that. We welcome you to chime in that forum area. We'll be working on topics ourselves and stuff that we think's interesting. And in some ways, it's just a friendly hangout and just discussing the news. Did I get that, Chris? Do you feel like you have anything to add?
Yeah, absolutely. That's just I think just give people an idea of what we're looking to do going forward, and some of the topics that we might discuss and that sort of thing, and really looking forward to it. I think it's a great forum to discuss some of those things that might not otherwise be discussed, and just kind of keep it in a relaxed environment, and then give others an opportunity to ask questions and kind of answer them on the air, just to make it more open, and help this thing grow.
And one of the things that we'd started on that we might get into next week, or we should soon, is winter riding and storage, because we're kind of in the winter months, and this is something a little bit about. Being in New York, it gets kind of cold and wet, and it's snowy too. So we might look forward to that. Brett, did you have anything to add to this kind of closing segment here?
No, this is fun.
Yeah, awesome. That's the idea, right?
Cool. Yeah, bringing this like East Coast, West Coast. Central.
Court's right now in the middle there,
In the
right?
middle.
Arizona.
Oh yeah.
This is like the world of e-bikes, man.
Yeah. Well, and hopefully we'll have more guests. Maybe we'll have Karn on at some point, and we look forward to it. So thank you so much, guys. I'm gonna start editing this and getting it up, and we'll see you next week.
Sweet.
Bye.